Yo, what is up, everybody? It's Daniel here, and we're back with another reaction today. And gonna watch the three OnlyFans horror story. Put on subscribe and put on post notifications and like this video, like I'm liking this one, and subscribe to Mort and put on post notifications for them. Let's get into it.
It was the summer of last year, and I was a broke college student. My parents were happy to help with paying for the education, but my university was in an urban and rather upscale area. So, despite the fact that most of my tuition was covered, I was still struggling to get by living costs. Food, clothes, and utilities were all very expensive. I worked long and hard hours at a local coffee shop as a barista, but this was starting to interfere with my education. I majored in biotechnology, which was a very difficult and competitive field of study at my school. The classes I had to take were extremely difficult and time consuming. Sometimes I would stay up for several days together in order to balance out studying, attending lectures, and going to work. But hey, someone had to pay for bus
Shit, my bad.
passes, and someone had to pay for my groceries. I didn't want to have to sacrifice my grades and future career opportunities solely due to the fact that I needed money right now. The worst part of all this was that I barely had a life of my own. With midterms coming up and finals a few weeks after that, hanging out with friends or just having fun in general really wasn't an option. I needed to make a lot of money fast and quick,
That's wild.
something I could preferably do in the comfort of my own
It should be
dorm.
good, I think.
My
Yeah.
mind immediately went to online jobs, but none of them seemed legitimate. Most of them required little time, but they obviously paid a little money. I asked an upperclassman friend of mine, and she suggested a couple things. At first, we were thinking of getting a sugar daddy, but that requires sometimes meeting those creepy old men in person, which I wasn't a huge fan of. But then my friend suggested selling a bit more revealing photos of myself online. She claimed that she and many other people she knew had done it loads of times, and you don't even need to show your face or that much of your body. People just pay ridiculous amounts of money even for slightly lewd photos. And considering that my roommate had just moved out with her boyfriend, I figured that this might be my best option. I had this room all to myself, and there was really no harm in doing this at this point. I immediately signed up as an OnlyFans creator. OnlyFans seem to be the most credible and popular of these types of websites. They also seem to
Yeah,
be
it
the
is.
safest and are very liberal with how much profit the creators get to keep. Pretty much every other girl on my campus has one in their Instagram bio anyway, so I figured there's really no harm in trying. And have too many other options anyways. It was a lot easier than I thought getting started. Rather young woman, and I considered myself to have a decent body. I saved up for a cheap but effective ring light off Amazon, and my smartphone had a good enough camera anyways. I started out by taking a profile picture. Nothing above my chin was shown. It was me posing all cute with only my underwear on. I bought a promotion from a rather large Twitter page for my OnlyFans, and it seemed to be working. I had already gotten a few subscribers and fans. I wasn't in the top 1% or anything, but my initial investments in the light and promotion were all paid off within a few days. I even took the following week off of work. I eventually went ahead and took the next few weeks of work off. I wanted to study for my midterms, and at this point OnlyFans seemed to be paying the bills pretty well. My audience seemed to be a mixture of mostly men, both old and young. But one day, as I was messaging a few fans, I noticed a DM request with an unusually high payment amount. Sure, a lot of these guys had their own weird kinks and would pay a surprising amount of money just to see my feet sometimes, but this was even stranger. I got a direct message from someone with the username John_Doe, and he was willing to pay $100 just for a photo of me smiling. I
The
initially thought
fuck?
he had added an extra zero by accident, so I messaged him back just to make sure that he resends the request with the right amount. But the man was serious. He
Hold up.
wanted to see a photo of me smiling for
Oh,
$100. I
hold up. Hello, beautiful. I'm so horny. People just want.
But the man was
Fuck.
serious. He wanted to see a photo of me smiling for $100. I took a selfie immediately and sent it to him.
Hold up.
He paid the amount in full. We kept messaging back and forth. He wanted to see a video of my full body from the neck down. I did, and he paid about
I'm not
$50.
showing that on YouTube.
He wanted to see a photo of my hands, and I sent those to him as well. After paying unusually high amounts for rather weird photos, he proceeded to ask
I will
rather
get
deep and odd
I will
questions.
get
Started with
whatever.
things like,
Okay,
how
here we
old
go.
are you and are you single? And transitioned to much creepier things like, how many partners have you had in the past? Are you living with family? Do you live alone? Are you sexually active as of now? I got
Fuck.
extremely weirded out by this, but I didn't want to be rude to the man. After all, he is a really big tipper. But eventually, the man started asking questions like, what STDs do I have? And at this
The
point, I
fuck?
just quit the chat. I continued with my night and went to sleep not thinking much of it. There are plenty of weirdos online, and this man could have just been another one of them. That next day, I had just gotten home from class. The bus was a bit late, and so was I. I opened up my laptop in order to start my night job, if you will, and noticed my OnlyFans had a series of unread messages from John_Doe, the same weirdo from last night. I was hesitant to open them at first, but I did. It was a series of manic, crazy messages. It started off with him offering large sums of money just to talk to me, and then it transitioned to him getting very aggressive and making threats to track me down and attack me just because I ignored him. I had finally had enough. I
What the
reported the man to
fuck?
OnlyFans and blocked him. No amount of money was worth his attention, and I eventually just called it a night.
Two
I
thousand
never
dollars
heard
for
back
feet
from
pics?
John_Doe those next few days. Things went on considerably normal until
Probably
one
a troll.
afternoon.
A troll.
It was around 4 p.m. and I was in my apartment. I was in the kitchen and I needed some fresh air, so I went outside my balcony to take a few deep breaths. But as I surveyed around the view, I noticed one of my neighbors on their balcony. This obviously wasn't particularly weird, but I noticed he was staring right at my building. It was an old man, looking at me in a somewhat intense or anxious manner. I waved to him as a friendly gesture, but received no reply. That's weird, I thought, but then things got even weirder. The man pulled out a pair of binoculars and stared at me, and then proceeded to scan up and down my building with his binoculars. I was extremely unsettled by this. It was like he was looking for someone. Could it be
Weird.
me? Why would this man be spying on me? I went back inside and tried to shake it off, but then it hit me. John_Doe from the last night. Could this be the man leaving me those messages? Could
Could
that
be.
creepy OnlyFans man be living right across from me?
That,
I knew I didn't have any time to waste, and I immediately reported him to my building. My building
or it
security
was
said that they talked to
someone.
the man and couldn't find any significant enough evidence that the man was doing anything wrong. They even tried telling the police as well, but they dropped the case because, well, they had nothing to report on either.
Yeah.
I was very irritated by this, but I never saw the man peeping at me anymore, so I figured he got the message. But one day, I was walking back from a grocery trip. I was only a couple blocks away from my apartment building, and it was mid-evening. It was getting a bit dark, but there were streetlights and my apartment complex was in a rather nice area. Deep down, I knew this was a dumb decision to make because I was a young woman, but hell, I just wanted some food. But as I was walking, I felt watched. Got this weird sense that there were a pair of eyes glued onto me as I was walking down the street. The stairs to my apartment building were only a few blocks away, but as I got more and more creeped out, the distance seemed to get longer and longer. Subtly surveyed my surroundings and noticed the old man across the street. Eyes locked onto me. I couldn't believe it. The man was back at it. I started trying to walk a little faster and heard footsteps behind me. The quicker my footsteps got, the quicker the old man's did as well. At
What
this
the
point,
fuck?
it was a speed walking race with the old man and I. At that point, I started sprinting. I wasn't the fastest runner in the world, but I was much younger than the man. I could hopefully outpace him. Quickly darted around a corner and stood there and waited. I was behind a bus stop and essentially was hiding for my life at this point. I knew I had to try going directly to the police this time, but I needed to get to my apartment or to safety first. Who knew what
Yeah.
this man would do to me, especially
Why didn't you
considering
just
he
fully
was the
run?
one leaving those crazy messages on my OnlyFans. But to my surprise, a young man noticed me. "You okay, ma'am?" the man asked. The man was around my age, only a tad bit older maybe. He was casually dressed and quite good looking. "Yeah, it's just the man following you," he interrupted. I don't know what to do. I'm scared he'll step out and find me," I said. "Hey, don't worry. I can walk you to your apartment, if that makes you feel a bit better," the man said. I was a bit sketched out at first, obviously, but I accepted the offer. I was afraid for my life at this point, and any help I could get was worth it. The man seemed like a gentleman, and he genuinely wanted to walk me to my apartment building. We chatted a bit about our lives as we
And so did Ted Bundy. He seemed like a gentleman. Hundreds of kills.
were walking, and he didn't really say much about his.
Watch.
The young man went by Jay, and he seemed to be a really nice guy. But as we were getting to my apartment building, there was an old van in the driveway that was never usually there. I had no idea what this random new vehicle was doing in our neighborhood at that time of day, but I just focused on getting to my door. But that's when I heard yelling behind me. "Wait! Wait!" It was the old man from before, and he was running after me, trying to get my attention. But before I could even react or comprehend what was going on, I felt Jay's hand latch onto my shoulders. He threw me into the oddly placed van. I didn't even have time to scream or react. He slammed the door shut and quickly started driving off. I
What'd I
tried my
say?
hardest to scream for help and get out of the van, but the back had no windows or access to the front seat.
What I say?
It was all padded down with wooden panels. I couldn't
Listen.
believe it. Jay was John_Doe. Jay was the one
Listen.
following me. But what did that mean for the old man? My thought was interrupted by the van coming to a sudden halt. Jay quickly yanked open the back door. The look in his eyes were completely different from when he walked me home. He had this crazed look on his face, almost like he was a different person altogether. He yanked me out of the van after taping my mouth shut and blindfolding me. Jay was pretty tall, and I'm not exactly the strongest person in the world, so I couldn't even resist. He dragged me into a building. I had no idea where I was, and I was freaking out. As he left me in what seemed to be a basement, he started telling me all the awful things he'd do to me and how I shouldn't have ignored him on OnlyFans. He walked away, and I sat there for what could have been only a few minutes, but felt like hours. I had given up all hope. Was this really it? Was this how my life was gonna end?
And now you're
My
gonna
entire
die.
life was flashing back before my eyes. But suddenly, I heard sirens outside. Could it really be the police? Was it just an ambulance or fire truck passing by? Soon, I heard a loud yelling and pounding on the front door, followed by, "Police search warrant! Step out with your hands above your head!" There was a long, intense pause, followed by more commotion. After several minutes of rustling and more yelling upstairs, my blindfold and tape were removed from my mouth. It was an officer. They took me to the police station and asked me some questions about Jay. I explained to them the entirety of the OnlyFans situation and showed them screenshots. It turns out the man was mentally ill but was somehow released from the asylum. I asked the police how they found me and they explained everything. It turns out the old man I suspected from before was actually trying to help me. According to the police, Jay had somehow managed to track my IP address through OnlyFans and found out where I lived. He happened to live pretty close by to me, and CCTV footage showed Jay coming to my apartment and analyzing my path home from the same van. The old man was looking through binoculars because he wanted to know why there was a random new vehicle in the neighborhood and what it was doing by my building. It turns out he was following me that day in order to make sure I went home safe. He was very, very suspicious of Jay in the van. He was suspecting that Jay would somehow do something to me, but by the time he actually found out, it was too late. The old man was the one who got the van's plate number on camera and reported it to the police immediately. The police used traffic cameras and records in order to find out where the van was going and where it could end up. As soon as I got home, I explained to my friends what happened, and I deleted my entire OnlyFans account right after that. I soon went back to work at my cafe and tried to resume my normal life. It's been about a year since that happened, and the old man moved out since. He's now at a senior care center nearby, and while we rarely are in contact, we never ever mention Jay or the incident. For context,
That was crazy. That was crazy. That was pretty good though.
20-year-old man. My name is Jack. But this horror story I'm gonna tell you didn't happen to me. It happened to a close friend of mine. Her name's Cecilia. We met on the integration meeting after our first day of college. I was pretty new to the area. I just moved from another city and I was excited to attend my dream college, get the best education I can and a good degree in my field. I had just moved here and all of my friends were in my hometown. I decided to make a new friend with this beautiful woman with a friendly face and say hi. Cecilia was gorgeous and probably one of the sweetest people I've ever met. She had big, beautiful blue eyes and glamorous skin. She really stood out from the crowd and, to me, glowed like an angel. I knew that she was someone special. I mean, hell, that's why she stuck out so much, and I approached her. Something about her when I first met her indicated to me that we would share a lot of amazing moments in life. I knew that she was someone special just initially meeting her. So when I approached her and greeted her, it was a real pleasure.
Oh, this guy looks like, hold up. This guy looks like the, ogre from Odyssey. I don't know how you spell it, but, actually. God damn it. That's what this guy looks like.
It turns out that she was new and rather lonely here as well. She was from a different state and was actually looking for a new friend herself. Figuring we had the same intentions, I invited her out for coffee that day. After that, I decided to go and talk with the rest of the freshmen from the meeting. I met a lot of my future friends that day, people who I still keep in contact with today. From that day forward, Cecilia and
I'm
my
tired of
relationship
saying it.
skyrocketed. We sat together during lectures, had lunch together.
I'm
We
super tired,
FaceTimed each
dude.
other almost every other day and gossiped harmlessly about our classmates. We truly were best friends. Unfortunately, things started going downhill after that. I myself was fortunate to have parents who financially supported me every step of the way. I could rent an apartment and buy everything I needed for a student's life with ease. But Cecilia had no financial support. She had to help herself. She worked a
That's
not
like
so
some sort
fun
of.
job at McDonald's, and the hours were grueling and long. This was starting to interfere with her education, and she had trouble studying. This really wasn't working out for her, so she started looking for smaller sort of side hustles online. She asked me for some advice or tips, but I didn't know what to tell her. Hell, I hadn't worked a day in my life. What was I gonna tell her? One day, Cecilia came across a website called OnlyFans. It was a pretty new and highly trending website. I didn't know much about the website, aside from the fact that it was known for adult content and pretty much every other Twitch streamer or Instagram girl had one in their bio. One day, she explained to me the nature of the website over FaceTime. She explained to me that she could make hundreds or even thousands of dollars just posing half naked online. Men were thirsty enough to just drop money on this stuff. She said she could finally be financially independent without even having to do any work. She didn't even have to show more intimate parts of her body and could make hundreds off fetishists who just want to see her hands or feet. She
I
was
don't.
blown away by the easy money
Do y'all get feet fetish? I don't get them.
and was eager to start an OnlyFans account. From that day, I warned her that it was a bad idea. It sounded like a dream side job at first and sounded like really good, easy money, but something was too good to be true. I told her that the whole idea of showing her face and body to a bunch of weirdos and creeps online could only be dangerous. You never know what their real intentions are behind a screen. She didn't seem to pay any mind to my concerns. She thought it was her easy way out of this problem. She truly didn't mind showing her body online if there was a monetary reward. I couldn't believe it. She really was this desperate. We got into a small argument, but I backed out. I realized I couldn't change her mind and let it be. She
Why'd you
signed up
give her
for an
some money?
account and started posting photos shortly after that. After a while, she told me that it was the best decision in her life. She told me she made triple the amount she made at McDonald's and barely had to put in any effort. She could actually focus on school and had spare time now. After she told me that a few men paid her thousands of dollars for some fully naked photos, I was very uncomfortable. I explained to her once again that this whole thing will backfire when some psychopath meets her, but she ignored my advice as usual. It bothered me. I personally felt that your body should be reserved for the one you love, the one who cares about you, the one who's there for you. But in the end of the day, it was her body and her life. None of my business. For the next few weeks, everything
That's
seemed to
smart
be
though.
going
I
back
don't
to
feel
normal.
that smart.
But one day, something horrible happened. Normally, we would meet each
What happened that day? She got kidnapped and raped by 5 different guys. She will never be the same again. This is why you don't do OnlyFans. Why does he sound like that, dude? Come on. I mean, I shouldn't be joking about like that, but like, why does he sound like that?
other in the morning before classes, but she didn't show up. That's weird. I checked my phone and
Did I call
she
it?
didn't let me know.
Why the fuck is that phone so big?
This was even weirder. Normally, she'd text me. I was surprised, but didn't think much of it. I decided to go on with the rest of my day. The day went by and I still didn't see her. She didn't join me at lunch or sit next to me during class. When I checked my phone that night, I noticed that she hadn't even been online since yesterday. 2 days went by and I started to get phone calls from her family and close friends. They wanted to know where she could possibly be. She literally
I
disappeared
fucking
from
called
the
it.
face of the earth. Her mom eventually called the police and reported her as a missing person, and the search begun. For a few days, the police asked everyone around her, including me, about where they saw her the last time. But after a few more days of searching and still no trace of her, the police asked for volunteers to help them. Me and several of her other friends decided to join in on the search. Armed with flashlights, we all checked through the local forest. It was exhausting. We searched up and down and still didn't find a single trace of her or her body.
Okay.
At this point, her parents were devastated. They were
Shit.
already crying. They knew that after this much time of someone being missing, the chances of survival were really, really low. The police finally got a warrant to search through her apartment. But when they looked through there, they saw no traces of any violence or that anything could have happened. Nothing was touched. They expected a fight scene or some broken plates or a messed up bed, but this didn't add up. If she was abducted, there would be some traces or some sign. But no, the detectives found the apartment clean.
Go on
The
the
only
OnlyFans.
lead they could find was an open OnlyFans page with her photos on it. They assumed that this was the doing of one of her followers, maybe. The police looked through her laptop thoroughly, but they still found nothing. Her messages and her subscribers revealed no information. Even their best investigator had no clue where she was. There was no trace of her or whether she was even alive. There were no suspects and no witnesses. The police and the volunteers searched for her for about another month. They did everything they could. They hung flyers, posted her on social media. Still, she wasn't found. The police eventually closed the case. Her family and friends were devastated. I considered myself lucky and let out a sigh of relief.
Why does he look like that? That actually kind of got me.
My plan succeeded, and I was happy about that. It was a great idea. I left her body in the basement of an abandoned farmhouse about 100 miles from the city. Nobody even suspected me because I was playing along as a victim, a good friend who only wanted the best for her. I told her not to use OnlyFans, but she wouldn't listen to me. I couldn't let anyone aside from me watch her body. I hated the idea of these creepy old men seeing her. I hated seeing those photos online. She could only be mine, and mine alone. Maybe if she weren't so stubborn and listened to my advice, she would have lived. We were meant for each other. We would look perfect together. But she just treated me like a friend. I'm perfectly fine with what I did. I don't regret it. I want to.
I have no words for that. Where is it?
We got into a small argument, but up for an account best decision had to put in any effort. She could actually focus on school and had spare time now. After
That's why he had those eyes like that. I was gonna point that out. Of course, it's the most replayed.
and succeeded. I considered myself lucky and let out a sigh of relief. My plan succeeded, and I was happy about that. It was a great idea. I left her body in the basement of an abandoned farmhouse about 100 miles from the city. Nobody even suspected me.
That's fucked. Shit.
Friend, I'm perfectly fine with what I did. I don't regret it.
Yeah, psychopath. That's fucked though.
I want to start off the
Story
story
three.
by letting you guys know
Last
I
story.
in no way consider myself a hero of some sort. I feel what I did was completely necessary and needed no validation or praise. Any marginally decent human being would have done the same thing if they were in my shoes. The story took
In
place
my
several
shoes
months
to
ago,
see
and it's
what
still
it's
very
like
fresh in my
giving me-
memory. It was late November, and my quarantine boredom had taken its peak. We had been at home for almost a year at that point, and my county went on its second full lockdown after another spike in cases. I'm a young man, and let's just say being indoors all day really brought out certain urges in me. The girl I'd been initially seeing had cut things off, and my sex life was put to a halt.
Oh,
Sure,
that
I had
sucks, I'm
work
sorry.
and a cat to take care of, chores to do, but I can speak for all of us when I say that most of us are pretty riled up in isolation. I found myself scrolling through social media one morning and stumbled across a very attractive girl. She had a little less than 8,000 followers on Instagram and about 3,000 on Twitter. Her name was Anna,
I'm sorry.
and she was unbelievably beautiful. She seemed to be gaining a small bit of traction online. After stalking her socials a bit and finding the link tree in her bio, I found out she has an OnlyFans. Now, normally I don't spend money on this kind of stuff. There's plenty of lewd material online for free, and I had never found a girl on OnlyFans intriguing enough for me to drop the first
That's not. I paid more. I paid like 25.
month subscription. But Anna
Never
was my
mind.
type, and most importantly, I was bored and horny. I figured if there was a time to say hell with it and try out
Bored
a
and
website
horny.
like this, it would be now. So there I was, reluctantly entering my credit card information into OnlyFans. The subscription fee was around $10 a month, $7 for new subscribers. Not that bad if I'm being honest. Now, this was my first time using OnlyFans, but I had to say, I was pleased with what I got. To put it simply, there were a few more exclusive photos of Anna on the front page. I enjoyed scrolling through them a bit. A few days passed by, and I still was occasionally
ready.
looking at her OnlyFans page.
Ready
After
to-
all, I
I'm ready
paid
to
for
get
the
off the
whole
screen.
month anyways. It actually felt quite nice supporting
Oh,
Anna
shit, my bad.
financially. Her house always seemed dark and dingy. Something about where she was filming made me feel that she wasn't in the best financial situation. I mean, after all, she was on OnlyFans. I eventually
Prison.
discovered the DM or request feature and decided to have a go at it. The page had what seemed to be a chat room, similar to an Instagram direct message. It allowed the subscriber to communicate directly with the OnlyFans creator and request
Yeah.
certain content and photos. One night, I was even more bored than usual and felt I had $1 or two to spare. I logged into my
200.
OnlyFans and opened up the direct messages feature. I said hi to Anna and got a response a few minutes later. It was a photo of her holding two fingers somewhat sideways over her mouth, seemingly a cute gesture for hello. I didn't immediately feel like asking her to send certain photos, so I tried to have a bit of small talk with her. She dodged almost every single question. Her age, where she's from. The only response I
Catfish.
got back was how she's doing. A meager great was what she texted back. It was a bit sketchy, but I eventually dropped the idea of trying to get to know her. After all, she probably has a bunch of men like me in her DMs. How was I special? I made a few photo requests, and there were a few dollars to unlock. A seductive pic here and another
Whatever I
there.
said was cringe,
After
though.
a few picture exchanges, I decided to call it a night. But before I closed the tab, however, I decided to take another scroll up the page. You know, enjoy the pictures I paid for of this gorgeous woman. But as I scrolled up, I started noticing the flirty hand symbols she was throwing up. They weren't your usual peace signs. They were something familiar. I looked a bit closer and longer, and that's when it clicked. It was American Sign Language. My younger sister grew up deaf, so my family and I pretty much had to learn ASL in order to communicate with my sister. I took a look at the
He also kind of looks like the ogre.
hand symbols she was making. The first one being the weird sideways peace sign. It was H. The next one, which I thought was her trying to imitate a cat pawing or purring, seemed to be an E. After that, there was one of her holding what seemed to be an L symbol over her head. The last one was with her three fingers seductively running up her arm. The fingers made a peace sign in ASL. The images in that order spelled help. I couldn't believe it. I thought these were weird hand symbols and were just some odd form of flirting or play. But it was a cry for help. What was happening? Why was she sending an SOS to me? Why not law enforcement? I immediately responded back, Anna, are you okay? Do you need my help? What's happening? I frantically sent. She responded with a video of her discreetly making the gesture in ASL that asks, do you know sign? I responded with yes and asked her where she was. She responded with a video of her signing back, don't know. My mind was racing. What was happening? Was this some sort of sick joke or prank? I asked her if she knew roughly
That's a bit
what
weird.
city she was in or what locality, and she responded, no, don't know. I immediately called the police. I let them know everything that happened, and they identified the girl as Layla Ronson. She was a college student, who the university had initially thought dropped out due to her lack of attendance for months. She seemed to be doing OnlyFans against her own will under the name Anna. The police used the OnlyFans URL and managed to track the IP of where the videos and messages were coming from. It seemed to be a rather affluent housing complex a few hours away from me, in my same state. The police in that area managed to track down the house and rescue Layla, as well as make all the needed arrests. According to the investigators on the scene, Anna was kidnapped not too long ago from her university. She was held captive and made to make OnlyFans and other online content against her will in the basement of one of the houses. The man who kidnapped her would take all of the money made from the process and continue the cycle. I got a phone call from
Yike.
Layla herself a few days later, thanking me for helping her. She said the man who kidnapped her said if he caught her asking for help online, he would harm or kill her. He would occasionally peer over from the corner of the basement to see what exactly she was doing, and made sure she wasn't asking for anyone's help over OnlyFans. I haven't spoke with Anna since, and I deleted my
Why?
OnlyFans account soon after the incident.
Why?
I simply didn't want to ever think about that website again. This
Well, I mean, at
memory
least
is
talk
not
to her.
something I relish.
Oh shit. No. 3 hours. No, what we could do is we could probably be 4 hours. We could probably watch 40. No, that's long. We could like watch 20 minutes of it. I could make it into like 10 videos or something like that. 20, 20 videos. Doing the math in my head. 5. Wait, no, no. 3, 9, 12. So I can do 18 videos, 15 videos on this video, but will I? Probably not. Maybe. But that was kind of crazy. That was kind of crazy, man. Uh, but yeah. Um, so how do y'all feel about that? To me, that's kind of crazy. You know, like OnlyFans. I don't get why people do OnlyFans, but I'm tired. I'm gonna go sleep now. We had Easter today. I'm really fucking tired. I'm not even gonna edit this video. That's how tired I am. Guys, it's oh yeah, you guys can't see it. It's 4:15. I have school today, so kill myself. But yeah, that's been this video, and that's been Salo Daniel, and I'm out.